Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to get into the part 1 of the basics of shoemaking. I'm going into some of my favorite tools, some of the tools that I use most often, and which ones I absolutely cannot work without. So if you're interested in finding out, stick around. Lasts are by far the most important part. A pair of lasts, ideally, that fit you, unless you're making shoes for somebody else. One thing to note about lasts is that you need a different shape of last for every different style of shoe that you want to make. And by style, I mean the complete silhouette. Obviously, with this last, I can technically make Oxfords and Derbies and monk straps and shoes of that nature with this height heel. If you want to get into something different with a different toe shape or a different heel height, then you're going to need a completely different last. This is a shoemaker's hammer. There are many variations of the hammer. The main thing you're looking for is obviously the hammer head. You see this part here, the center, comes up a bit higher than the actual edge, which helps when you're hammering down. It doesn't leave a deep indentation because this edge doesn't quite hit. And then you're looking for something that has this end, because when you have a shoe lasted and you have the nails sticking out, you want to be able to have something like this to be able to hit it in between when you're gluing it, or you want the pieces to lay nicely. I like to cut my uppers with a good old X-Acto knife. There are other types of clicking knives that are perhaps more professional, but I haven't really invested in anything else. This has served me well, so this was the first shoemaker's knife that I got. I got it locally at a shoemaker's or a shoe supply shop that we have here in LA. Sharpens pretty easily, it stays sharp pretty well, and I use it mostly to cut my soles. The next knife I got is this one, which has a nice straight edge right there. This knife has been a really good investment actually. I really like this knife. This here is a Tina knife. This knife is good because it gets into certain places that are harder to reach. Skiving with this flat edge was much harder than with this rounded edge. Also, it's got a curve. It's not the most massive curve. When you have a curved knife, when you're skiving, it helps protect your fingers from getting basically raw, because it gets to a point where your knuckles can really start hurting. This was the first one that I got. It's not my favorite. I work with mostly ladies' shoes, so they tend to be much smaller spaces, and this is a bit thick for me. So when you're trying to get in there and pull the material, it's just not the easiest to use. And this one is my favorite one. This is the one I use every single time. I don't remember the brand, honestly. As you might know, a lot of the tools that shoemakers buy are secondhand tools. That's just the way it goes, and you find a lot of them on eBay or Etsy or different websites as well. Another thing that we need are nails and tacks. I have two types of nails. I have either these, which are called, I believe, blued brads, because they're slightly blue and the light hits them. The reason we want to get inch long ones, or about an inch, because you want to hold it when you're tacking it down into the last. You're holding it like this and then hitting, so you don't want to smash your fingers. You want to make sure they're this big at least. So I have these blued brads, but I also have these really pretty copper plated ones, which just make me happy when I'm working because it just looks so pretty. As for tacks, the tacks will depend on what you're working on. So tacks look like this. They're thick, they're really pointy, very painful if you stick your hand in the cup. So these tacks are used for different things. Sometimes the allowance at the top, you want to maybe tack that on so that the shoe doesn't slide down. There's different uses for this. I don't use these that often though, but I do have them, so figured I would show you. I also have some wooden pegs, which I also barely use, but I have them nonetheless. There's different uses for these. If you're making like cowboy boots, you can put them like along the shanks. Some people use them in the heel. There's different uses for this. I don't use them that much, but I have them nonetheless. Sandpaper, different grits. You need to have some glass. The glass is used to shave lightly, mostly the sole edges, the bottom of the sole, and the heels when you're heel building. So what you do is you buy maybe some bigger glass and you break it, and you have pieces like this. To finish the edges of the sole and the heel, we have what we call edge irons. And the edge irons get heated over a flame, and then you just use them to sort of like burnish and finish the edges to make them look nice and polished. The catch with this is that you need different sizes for the different size thicknesses that you're going to use. This one here, I use it to finish the heels because of the wider area, and you use it like the same way. You heat it up and you use it like this to iron, as the name implies, the heel and sometimes the sole as well. It helps like burnish it, finish it, close the pores, all of that. You want to have some rubber cement and some contact cement, toe puffs and heel counters to stiffen them up. That is Hirschkleber. That's what that's for, and it's cool because it's I think it's a natural potato paste. I can't read that, but if you can, there you go. I think it's potato, but don't quote me on that. When you use it, it hardens really hard, and some people use this on heels as well when they're building heels. I've been mostly doing contact cement for heels just because it's so much quicker. With this, I find that it shifts a lot when I'm trying to build them. I guess you have to just use some nails or something. Tape measure, obviously to measure. This is what they call a shoemaker's tape measure because it includes centimeters on one side, and I believe it's Paris points on the back side. It includes the English size and the stitch. Masking tape is what we use to tape the last, draw the design on it, and create the pattern and all of that. Top line tape is used to reinforce, as the name suggests, the top line of the shoe. It's a very thin tape, but it's also a very strong tape. Reinforcement tape goes under the lacing holes. Overall, on the inside of the shoe, you can use this to give it more strength in different areas. And then backline tape. It's a stretchy, less firm tape that we use at the back of the shoe to give the backline some support and strength. You can do wooden shanks or metal shanks. I haven't found a use in my case for wooden shanks, so I just use metal shanks. And then these get shaped to whatever last you're working on. Silver pen is also something you want to have. It's to mark the leather. In my case, I have it on a feather because quills and wizards and Ravenclaw, it just looks fancy when you're like working with it. If you're making welted shoes, you're gonna need to have a stitching awl. It looks like this. And that's to cut through the leather so you can stitch it by hand. I haven't been doing welted shoes, so you haven't seen them on this channel, but you will. I'm gonna get back into it. It's technically a more structurally sound construction for shoes. Additionally, obviously you need some leather and some thread and some pastes, but overall, that's pretty much it. If you're making shoes by hand, you don't need any crazy machinery. You could just sort of get started and try it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was useful to you. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you're new here. And I'll see you next time. Bye.